We're constantly told to build our brand, be visible, post every single day, or we'll just be forgotten. But what if the real path to power, to genuine evolution, is the exact opposite? What if to truly dominate, you have to disappear first?
This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of real transformation. It isn't just about adding a new skill or tacking on a new habit. No, it's a total breakdown. It's about literally dissolving the old you to make room for what's coming next. This isn't an upgrade, it is a complete and total rebirth.
And that really brings us to the central conflict of our time, doesn't it? We are pushed constantly to perform, to be visible. But our deepest, most profound growth, it requires privacy. It requires silence. It requires a retreat from the world's stage.
I mean, just look at this contrast. On one side, you have our culture screaming, be seen, stay relevant. But on the other, you have this quiet, universal truth. Evolution happens in the dark. The crowd, well, they want you to stay the same, to be predictable. But real reinvention, becoming something entirely new, that requires you to get away from all the watching eyes.
This is what we're going to call the shadow phase. And let's be perfectly clear. This is not about running away. Not at all. It's a strategic, calculated retreat. Think of it as your personal laboratory, where you get to deconstruct what isn't working anymore and forge new strengths, all without the contamination of outside opinions.
Okay, so we've covered the why, but how do you actually do this? How do you pull it off? Because disappearing isn't just turning off your phone for an afternoon. It's a skill. It's an art form that you can actually master. So let's get into the mechanics.
This is it. This is the first and maybe the most important question you have to ask yourself. When you unplug from everything, the notifications, the feeds, all that noise, what's left is, well, it's just you. The real journey begins the second you can sit in that silence and not immediately panic to fill it. This is the huge internal shift that has to happen. You move from this old mindset of external validation, always asking, how do I look? Do they like this? To one of deep internal alignment, asking, what am I becoming? Does this serve my purpose? You stop running on the fuel of the crowd's applause and start running on your own purpose. And that shift, it's a revolution. So how do you make this practical, right? Not just a cool idea. Well, here's a simple 14-day blueprint. You start with a basic audit of your distractions. Then you build a sacred space, just a corner that's yours. By the second week, you're entering monk mode. Total focus on one deep project. And finally, you integrate these things so they become a sustainable part of your life.
This brings us to the heart of the whole transformation, what we can call the inner furnace. This is where the real work gets done. It's where you stop just dreaming about who you want to be, and you start actively engineering that new identity through sheer discipline and action.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. Without the constant pressure to perform, without the likes, the comments, the comparisons, what truth about yourself would finally emerge? What version of you is just waiting for the spotlight to turn off so it can finally grow? See, in the furnace, transformation isn't a mood, it's a ritual. These aren't just items on a to-do list, they are the non-negotiable daily habits that turn your solitude from an empty space into a powerful forge. The shadow phase is all about making this critical shift from passive consumption to active contemplation. It is the massive difference between just scrolling through tweets and actually engaging deeply with a book, between watching someone else's story and taking the time to write your own. And here's the kicker. While everyone else is out there performing for attention, you are in the shadows building real, tangible leverage. You're acquiring high-value skills, creating assets, developing systems. This is how you build true wealth, financial, intellectual, and spiritual, quietly and very, very strategically. So, what happens after the forge? After you've gone through this transformation, you face a choice. Do you even return to the world? See, reappearance isn't a requirement. It becomes a strategic decision that you get to make entirely on your own terms.
This right here, this is the goal. Your return, if you choose to make one, shouldn't come with a big announcement. It should just be felt. Your new presence, your new power, it should resonate so deeply that no explanation is even necessary. You just let the change speak for itself. Now, to maintain this power, this can't just be a one-time thing. You have to integrate it as a cyclical discipline, a weekly digital Sabbath to disconnect, a quarterly reset to recalibrate.
an annual deep dive to create and reflect. This stops being an escape and starts becoming your personal charging station.
All right, let's bring it all together. What is the core philosophy here? What's the one big thing you should really take away from this whole idea of the quiet rise?
It really boils down to these 3 simple truths. 1, true power doesn't need to shout. It's silent. 2, you disappear not because you're lost, but because you are being reborn. And 3, if you do return, make sure it serves your mission, not your ego. It's always about depth over display. Always. And that just leaves us with one final crucial question. This isn't just some interesting concept. This is a call to action. You've seen the map, you understand the principles, so the only thing left to ask yourself is, when are you going to vanish to grow?